We actually begin by making a conference call with the DV provider or whoever the provider may be. It's not necessarily a domestic violence provider, maybe another community provider, to actually see what is their view, what is their vision for this money, and how do they expect to use it. Then from there, we actually do a follow-up, which is called a site visit.
Site visits can be a helpful way of monitoring. We do them in Alaska. We have a pre-visit letter that we send out to the programs that lets them know the dates we're interested in coming, the information, materials we're going to want to review, the staff members that we'll want to interview. We ask for a meeting with their board of directors, and we also ask for interviews with community partners. I think that gives a good feel for what's going on in the community.
I am the program coordinator for the Family Violence Prevention Intervention Program, and so I have the responsibility as part of my job to do the monitoring. I think one of the most important things that we've done to get good relationship with grantees is involve them in the process. And we have a peer review process in Louisiana where we use skilled and knowledgeable and seasoned directors of shelters to form a team, which we call the Committee on Quality Assurance, and they read self-studies that are done by each shelter. Then they form teams and go out and make the site visit. The reason it's worked is, number one, we didn't try to be the heavy-handed monitor out there finding whatever they could that was wrong, but using a team of colleagues to go out and make a visit that's not based on what can we find wrong, but how can we work better together, how can we help you come in compliance and stay in compliance. And the point of it is to get good information, to get answers to questions that have come up from the Quality Assurance Committee, and to have a dialogue between them and the program so that they can share information about what makes their shelter successful.
One of the legislated functions of the board for which I work is that we're responsible for monitoring and doing quality assurance of all the programs that we fund. And as such, we literally do send a peer review team in of people from our office, a combination of people from our office and peers, who actually go in and look at files and talk to program staff and other people related to the work of the agency. And that's a key example of where we try to be very conscious of the importance of confidentiality. All the records that we look at have information that's been redacted. So while we do look at files, we're very careful that we're not looking at any personally identifying information. And I can't stress enough how critical it is that as a funder, we be cognizant of the fact that confidentiality has to be maintained at all times, and that we have found that we can still be equally effective in monitoring programs without in any way compromising an individual's confidentiality.
When I actually conduct a site visit, I actually go in and sit down and talk with the executive director, and I actually do interviews with other staff members. I like to talk about their mission as an agency or for that program concerning domestic violence. I like to talk about the number of individuals over the past maybe month that they've been able to reach, and most of all, I like to talk about their community awareness projects. It's always great when I go out on a site visit to sit down and actually see and hear the heartbeat of the program and to really see how they're making a difference in the community.
We have 3 staff in our council office that go out to programs and do a combination of the monitoring and the technical assistance. We have quarterly narrative and financial reports we receive from programs, and once a grant cycle, we go out to programs and do on-site evaluations.
One of the most important things you want to know and to have as you go out to do monitoring and technical assistance is to have the respect and the trust of the people that you're going to visit. That sure, there's going to be a little anxiety because you're their funder and you've got some control over what happens to their dollars. But on the other hand, in order to get response, you need a trust factor. You need a sense that they're going to respect what you're saying and what you're suggesting that they do. And I think that's really important. I think another thing is to have the ability to answer their questions, because they'll have questions about why you're visiting, particularly if it's a visit that they have not generated or that's not been generated by a peer review committee. And in that case, you really want to have your facts in hand. You want to have your answers well prepared. You want to have thought of some questions they might have or what you might have if you were having that visit.
And you want to keep that open relationship so that if there are issues that occur in that program, they're a little bit more apt to pick up the phone and call you and ask you, what do we need to do to correct this or modify it?
Our approach in monitoring is to provide technical assistance to the programs, to encourage their thought processes and strategic planning, to identify statewide trends, and to assist communities in developing programs that will best meet the needs of victims in their areas. So I suggest just taking your time and being as thorough as possible. Don't be afraid to say you don't know and then go back and find out answers.
We do evaluate our subgrantees, and we have specific questions. We have progress reports. Once those evaluation pieces are submitted, then we look at the trends, we look at the analysis to determine whether or not they're actually meeting the goals and objectives of the program. Most people think that because you fund them, that you cannot completely evaluate them and monitor them. You can do it if you keep the jobs separate. You know what it is that you're doing as a funder, and you know what it is that you're looking for as a monitor. So you can do both, but you have to be unbiased.
What I do is I look at their prior year performance. I look at what they've done, if they've been able to keep up with the standards, if they've been able to keep in compliance with the standards. If they're not in compliance, what are they doing to get into compliance? Have they done their statistics on a regular basis? Have they complied with all the other parts of the contract, including inspections, fire department inspections, health inspections? Have they budgeted well? Have they been responsible managers of their budget? I look too at how responsive they've been to me during the year. All of those things make a huge difference when you're evaluating.
So the contract managers go out, they monitor once every 2 years. In some cases, if there's reason, we might go ahead and do some accelerated monitoring, so they'll have visits a little bit more frequently. But then that's where actually the partnership really kicks in, because if we identify certain findings during the course of the monitoring where we feel that technical assistance and training is necessary, then we've developed a process with the coalition where we first of all require that the agency get the training from the coalition. We also give the coalition a heads up, so they're going to be prepared when that agency calls. The coalition has a whole menu of trainings that they've developed over the years. I think some in response to needs identified through the monitoring process, some identified through their own work. And so it works really well that when we've identified a need, almost always there's either a training already in place, or, as happened this year with a need that was identified, they begin to work to develop that training and put it in place.
Technical assistance might be one of many things. It might be going out to do some training, helping them understand how to collect the data that we're asking them to do every month, how to understand the definitions better, how do you count, and where do you put those counts when you come up with your numbers for this secure website that we have to gather the data. So that might be one intervention. Another one might be to work with a shelter that's doing very well, and we want to be able to target and identify some of those practices that it does really, really well. We want to be able to duplicate those elsewhere.
With the technical assistance piece, we rely on our state coalition to actually visit and work with the shelters to determine whether or not there's a need for services or if there's a need for training.
The style that I like to use is one of teamwork and kind of a collaborative effort. I always like to come in as a team player. I never want to come in as an outsider. Although you're a grantor or a funder, you want to come in like we're here for the same purpose, and that purpose is to make sure that families are safe. So I actually take that approach to say, I'm coming out to see if there's some great ideas that we can come up with and a way that I can better support you.